everyone, it's Melissa. Today's video is about Thanksgiving, and I don't know if you can tell, but my neck has gotten all irritated, so I've been using, every once in a while I'll notice more lines on my neck, so I work with my Baji to get them to peel off, and so I'm going through that process right now. It's ugly when it happens, but then it helps to kind of renew the skin. But anyway, that's another story. Today's video is talking about our Thanksgiving, and I wanted to talk about it because of two things. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is it started out that it was going to be just a horrendous Thanksgiving. There was some sickness, there was some personal things. We weren't able to cook in ovens that we thought we were going to be able to because people were sick in that household. So it was very stressful, and Doug and I were just, we were dropping things, and the more stress we got, the worse we did. But darn it, if it was not the best meal, and everybody there agreed, the best meal we have ever put in our mouths. It was the best Thanksgiving dinner that Doug and I have ever cooked. And we've been married a long time and cooked every Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner. This one was the best. So I wanted to talk about and share recipes with you. We had a sickness, one family, a child was sick, so the mother stayed home, but I had been going to cook part of my meal in her oven, but I didn't want to go in her house. Their strep throat was going around, and we just didn't know, what he had yet. And so I didn't want to go in there. And we had to take things out. We couldn't keep things warm because we were doing rolls in an oven and dressing and warming our sweet potato things up. Just a bunch of stuff going on at the same time. So that's why it was a little hectic there at the end. And then we didn't know, the grandkids had all been together. That little boy was sick. Like I said, we didn't know if he had strep throat or not because it was in his school. So they, all the little kids, were they carriers? Did they want to come inside around Doug and me and my daughter-in-law's parents who, were all older? We didn't want to get strep throat. So that we were all tense about that. So we decided, it was a warm day. It was in the 60s. We would just eat outside. Some of them would eat outside. Some of them would eat inside that had not been around, this child. So that's a long story saying how we ended up making a really good thing out of a possible disaster of a Thanksgiving. Those kids, I looked outside, those kids were sitting on the carport on a blanket all together, having the best time. And just eating off of a big, one of those big jumbo paper plates. And they enjoyed it. They loved it. They said it was the best food they ever had. So anyway, let me get into the recipes. I wanted to mention the other part because we ended up making something good out of something bad. And I could have let my attitude, and Doug could have let his attitude go, oh, this is worse. This I just go, let's just cancel it, or, doing like that. But we decided, let's make the best of it and let's be positive. The main thing is, to provide, to be together and provide, make these kids happy, make our kids happy, and that's what we did. And so we were happy ourselves. Okay. The first thing, I'm going to give you some recipes. I did not show myself cooking. It was enough tension going on that I didn't think it was going to even turn out, so I didn't even film it. But I wish I had, but I will tell you, about some of the processes, things we did. Some of the recipes come from Cooks Illustrated. Now, we subscribe to the website Cooks Illustrated, and so I don't feel like I can share those couple of recipes from there. I will give you the link to it, and then you can subscribe for free, like for 2 weeks if you want to subscribe and grab the recipes that I'm going to tell you about, and then unsubscribe. But I don't feel like I can ethically just go ahead and write out their recipe that they have studied and worked toward and everything. So I will give you the link, but it is a link that you have to join the website to be able to see. So I just think that's only fair not to do that to them. Okay, I made notes on little note cards. So Doug fixed the turkey, and he fixed Cook's Illustrated, what they called the braised turkey. So, like I said, you can join free for 14 days. They tell you to brine it in sugar and in something else. Doug could not get a turkey that was raw. He had to get one that was already pre-brined, so he did skip that step. He wanted me to tell you that. They say to use turkey drumsticks and thighs. Doug used backs and wings. He just ended up using the breasts of the turkey. He used backs that he cut off, and that he bought turkey wings at the grocery. So he did that in the recipe. And so that's from Cook's Illustrated. I will link it below. The turkey was magnificent. He follows it exactly the way it says on the recipe, except he doesn't brine it because his was already injected with brine and pre-brined, so he couldn't do that. But he would brine it if he had gotten a raw turkey like that, or a turkey that didn't already have that done. So excellent turkey. It was moist, it was juicy, it was tender. It was just the best turkey. Just absolutely. He does a great turkey, and this one was no exception, but I think it was his best one. Okay, the next one is the stuffing. Now, I made the stuffing, and I make everything gluten-free. There are a few dishes that Doug, his pie crust, some of his pie crust have gluten in it, and his yeast rolls have gluten in them. Me and some of the other members of the family can't have gluten, so I make all my stuff gluten-free. And I try to make it dairy-free too, because I have one grandson that can't have dairy. So that's, kind of leading up to this. My stuffing, I had always used the Pirate's House recipe, but just made it gluten-free from the Pirate's House in Savannah, Georgia. But I noticed when I went gluten-free that the cornbread just didn't hold up. The gluten-free cornbread did not hold up as well. The gluten-free bread did just fine. So I started looking around and found that most people that did a stuffing gluten-free did it with just bread crumbs. So that's what I decided to do this time. And it was fantastic. I made 2 pans. I could have made 3. So the stuffing recipe is from a website called glutenfreepalette.com, and it is absolutely fantastic. Bread, let's look at some of the ingredients. It calls for your bread, dairy-free butter. I use, and let me take this opportunity to say that so that my grandson can eat things, he is able to eat ghee, which is clarified butter. That does not bother his system. So I substitute butter with ghee, and it usually just comes in a jar like this, and you open it, put it in the refrigerator. I take out the amount I need, melt it, whatever I need to do. And if it calls for milk, I will use, we really like this, I think it's good, just a coconut milk. This happens to be the Thai kitchen coconut milk. We like to use the full fat coconut milk that comes in the can. So that's the 2 substitutes that I make, and delicious, absolutely delicious. I didn't have to use this much, except if I had made mashed potatoes. I did not make mashed potatoes this year. We did twice baked potatoes. But whenever I do mashed potatoes, I put, instead of butter, I put ghee in it, and I put coconut milk in it. Everybody loves it. The gluten people love it. The dairy people love it. It's fantastic. Okay. So it's got just great ingredients, your onion, your celery, your thyme, your sage, your rosemary. Absolutely wonderful recipe. I can guarantee it. I do not stuff a turkey. I just bake it in a dish. But she said that you could, and she tells you how to do it. She said that you could add sausage to it. You can doctor it up. She tells you how to do it. Absolutely wonderful recipe that I will link below. The cranberry sauce Doug made, Man, it's good. It is the orange maple cranberry sauce from Cook's Illustrated. I will link it below, but like I said, it is one of those that you have to join, you know, if you want to do it for 14 days and copy the recipes, you know, I'm going to throw that option out there. But we use Cook's a whole lot. We have their recipe books. We refer to their website, and so we get a lot of recipes for them because they test it so thoroughly. And they find out which steps and which ingredients are absolutely perfect. So we depend on them a lot for our cooking. So wonderful cranberry sauce, tart. It's got a touch of cayenne in it. It's got maple syrup and a touch of cayenne. It's got a tang to it you won't believe. A little bit of a bite to it. You're going to love it. Just love it. Okay, Doug's yeast rolls. I'm going to have to get him to write out the recipe. I said, well, give me your recipe for your mama's yeast rolls. He said, well, it's Carolyn Boland's recipe. I said, who's Carolyn Boland? Well, she was Mom's friend, and she got it from her mother. You know, it has gone back generations. He said, but I've made changes to it. And I forgot, you know, you have to fold in the butter. I haven't put that down. I'm going to have to write it down. So I said, okay, be sure you write it down because it's, you know, it's one of those old yeast roll recipes that just melt in your mouth. I can remember before I went gluten-free eating it. Those of us that are gluten-free, I got the box, and it was so good, of the Red Lobster. I wish I'd had the box with me. It's the Red Lobster cheese biscuits. So I got 3 boxes of them, and I mixed it all up. Took half of it and went ahead without the cheese. I took half of it and put it, because a lot of people don't like cheese in their biscuits, and some people do, and then my grandson that can't have cheese. So I did half of it and, you know, put it out on the pan and put that in the oven. Then the other half, I put shredded cheese in it and then put that out on the pan to cook and put that in the oven. So, and then I kept them separate. I had a little sign that said, these are cheese biscuits, these are without cheese biscuits. And then you put a little garlic sauce made with butter on top. I just used the ghee in place of the butter, and it was absolutely delicious. So some of this is also kind of telling you how we get around food restrictions too. As you know, I have Crohn's disease, I have food restrictions, and other people do too. So we make it work, and it was really good. Okay, the green beans that I make are Paula Deen's green beans. Now, I do not put potatoes in. She puts some like new potatoes in hers. I don't do that. She puts onion in hers. I don't put onion in mine. So those are the only 2 differences. But other than that, it's the same. I will link it below. My grandkids love those green beans. They request it for every birthday meal. Twice baked potatoes. Okay, I can give you the recipe. It came from a recipe book. But the recipe book, his mama had it. His mama had it. And she got it from an old recipe book. And it's been handed down. So Doug makes them now. Twice baked potatoes is, you know, you bake your potatoes and you take it out and you mix it with bacon and cheese. And now my grandson couldn't have that, but you mix it with bacon and cheese and onion, and it's just, you know, all kinds of goodness. And you mix it all up together, and then you put it back in, stuff it back in the potato and bake it some more. So it's just really, really good. That's why it's called twice baked, because you bake it twice. So the recipe, I have the recipe. It is from a book from the late 60s or early 70s, so I do feel comfortable. I feel like it's, you know, out of print now and everything, so I feel comfortable sharing that as recipe, so I will write it out below. The twice baked potatoes were a huge hit, just absolutely wonderful. Now, in past Thanksgivings, I have done Cook's Illustrated's twice baked potatoes. It is really good. I will put that recipe down below. I substitute, when it says, they say to use cream to mix it all together, I use my coconut milk. And when they say to add butter, I add ghee, and it's absolutely delicious. It's called Make Ahead Mashed Potatoes. It's a good one to do a day or 2 before, and then they tell you how to warm it back up again. But I will link that from Cook's Illustrated below. Sometimes instead of green beans, I will do my Brussels sprouts. And I have done a video on that. I will link it down below so that you can see how I did that. I did show how I did it. I do Brussels sprouts, and you put a little syrup in it and some bacon and nuts, and it's really good. It's a good recipe. So if you didn't like green beans, you could do, or you could do the Brussels sprouts. Okay, I did sweet potatoes in orange cups. So what I did the day before, I made my sweet potatoes, and the only thing I did with them, I baked my sweet potatoes. And I think I just did the amount of people we had, maybe plus one sweet potato. So maybe not quite that many, but I did a batch of sweet potatoes and baked them. Then I took them out and put them in a big bowl. Then I added just some maple syrup. I didn't want to put any brown sugar or anything in there. I put maple syrup in it. I didn't even do salt and pepper, I don't think, but you could. I put maple syrup in it. I put vanilla in it. I sprinkled some cinnamon in it. And then to kind of smooth it out a little bit more, I put some coconut milk in it. And you could use your mixer to mix it up. I just did it, kind of whipped it with a fork. And it was smooth enough. It was plenty smooth, and I just would kind of taste it to see if it needed more syrup or more cinnamon or, whatever it needed. So I kind of made that one up. And then the morning of, I took oranges. I took the number of people we had and halved it, because I halved the oranges. And so I cut the oranges in half, and I scooped out the pulp on each side and saved the scooping out, the pulp, because the grandkids like to chew on it later. So then I took the hollowed out orange hulls, and I put sweet potatoes in them. Then I put a little bit of marshmallow on top of each one, and then I put it in a 350, I will do it down below the recipe, but I put a 350 oven for 15 minutes until the marshmallows kind of melted. It didn't quite melt, and I wanted to brown it on top, so I turned the broiler on just for about a minute, and that got it kind of toasty on top. And so I took that out. You could put nuts in it too if you wanted to, sprinkle some nuts in it. I just didn't this year, but I have in years past. Okay, that is it. I made 2 pies. I made a pumpkin pie that was gluten-free. Then I made another gluten-free pie crust and gave it to Doug, and he filled it up with his pecan pie. But he made 2 other pecan pies, and then he used my crust and made 1 gluten-free pecan pie, and I made a gluten-free pumpkin pie. And then my daughter is a wonderful baker, so she brought all kinds of stuff, rum cake and just all kinds of really, really good goodies. So that's what we had for one of the best Thanksgivings ever that started out terrible. So I'm going to go ahead and get off here because they're getting ready to cut off my electricity. They have been working on paving our road, and then they said, right now, they told us earlier at this time, so I expect at any time, they're going to cut off the electricity for a couple of hours. They're going to have to replace some wires and a pole and a transformer and do some things like that. So I got out of here just in the nick of time before they shut it off. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody take care. Talk to you in a couple of days, and I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, those that celebrate. And love you all. Bye-bye.